HCN. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are watching this program, you are watching Heroes Cable Network. And on HCN here, we focus on promoting tradition, culture, education, and the development of our community. Today's program is a special dedication to our fathers. As we celebrate Father's Day, we need as much as possible to highlight the key issues that we are facing in our various homes regarding fatherly love and fatherly responsibilities. There has been so many talks about Mother's Day. Today, we focus on Father's Day. HCN here, our mandate is to ensure that we highlight the key perspectives, bringing the rhetorics that has not been the case ever since. And so today's program, you are going to face it with me here, Nana J, on this program. And here we will talk in-depthly about everything you need to know on Father's Day. To celebrate this day, we are asking you as much as possible to follow us on our social media handles. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube. All you got to do is go on there, like our handles, share, and then provide us with a comment on the topic that we're going to handle today. We'll be right back after this commercial break, and then we go straight into the program. Thank you. You're welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you're watching HCN, where we focus on promoting education, culture, and the development in our community. And again, my name is Nana J. And on here today, we are dedicating this day specially to our fathers. So yes, of course, since the inception of Father's Day celebration in the 1910s, the whole focus has been on the roles of fathers, what they did and what they did not do, the mistakes that fathers have committed, sometimes even arguing that why do we pay so much attention to Mother's Day celebration and not Father's Day celebration. That has been the nature of the rhetoric. Here on HCN today, we are looking to divert our attention totally away from that rhetoric and then try to understand indeed what are the other stuff that we are not focusing on, what are the other issues, what are the other lessons, what are the other programs, what are the other strategies that we are not focusing on that is making us think in the negative light when it comes to Father's Day celebration. For instance, do you even know who a father is? Can we compare who a father is to who a daddy is, for example? What are the roles of a father? What are the strategies that a father ought to embark on to ensure that his standing in the family or his standing in the home is seen as what it is that a father really has to have? And then also, even more so, do we even understand what the difference between a physical father is and that of a spiritual father is? Today in the studios, we have a very special guest who would help us dissect and dive deep into this aspect of the rhetoric and to really give us a general perspective of what it is that fathers out there can take in order to make them who indeed their call is. But before we do that, we had a wonderful time having to understand how the community really do understand this difference or this variation. So these questions that I posed earlier, before we go to that video as well, I might want to have to give you a little bit of the guest that we have in the studio here today. He is but everything that you can think about. He's an educationist, he's an educator, if you want to call him that like that. He is a reverend minister. He is also a counselor. He's pretty much everything. I will introduce the guest on the show today to you right after we see these videos from what other people think of who a father is or a daddy is. Take a look at this video.
Yes, I think we should celebrate fathers just like we celebrate moms. You know, we have Mother's Day. It's real big all over the world. There are a lot of fathers who are playing the role of mom and dad. Okay, they're playing both roles. Now you can't call them mom, so you know what I mean. You got to call them father or dad. So yes, fathers need to be celebrated. I would think it would be the proper thing to do since we have big recognition for Mother's Day. Thank you.
I think in these days, these generations that we have, the father may be construed as somebody that actually is responsible, can pretty much take care of a child and, you know, say nurture the child to become a responsible citizen in our society. A dad, I'm not sure, maybe it's another language or synonym for father, so that's what I would define.
So is it any male figure who can be a father?
Not really. I mean, I think there's a difference giving birth to a child, to a society, and taking care of the child. So when you take care of the child, it doesn't matter if you're not the biological father. You can still be a responsible father to the child. The child can call you a father, and you can definitely enjoy also the blessings of a father from the child.
To me, there are two different kinds of fathers. We have the biological father who gave birth to a child, and the other one is the adopted father, where it's not biological, but the person has adopted a son or a daughter, for that matter, to take care of and influence the person's life. So that's how I see it. So we basically have two types of fathers. The one who is the actual father, biological father, and the other one who has been adopted by the father.
So is it necessary to set aside a day to appreciate our fathers?
I think it's important to set a day aside, not only to celebrate, but to acknowledge God's mandate to fathers. You know, fathers have divine mandate to take care of their families. And so it's important that we celebrate, not only celebrate, but also acknowledge God's grace upon fathers.
Thank you so much, Pastor Frimpong. Who is a father?
I think a father is a male figure who is either biologically have kids or looks after kids, raises kids, and is responsible and is a role model and a mentor for kids, treats his family well, his wife and children, takes care of the family. There are several roles that a father fits, and it's hard to enumerate all of them, but those are the ones I can think of right now, you know.
Welcome back to the studios, and again, you are watching Heroes Cable Network, and I am your host, Nana J. So you saw the video, the whole question about it. As I said, in this studio, we have a very special guest, and he's in the person of Reverend Martin Osai, the resident Reverend Minister or Pastor of the Ghanaian Community Presbyterian Church. Reverend Martin,
yes,
it's good to see you.
Very, very kindly. Thank you so much for having me in your studio today, Nana J. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure. I know when we started, you know, the whole planning behind this whole show today, we kept thinking about that person. Who is that person that we can bring on in here to have that kind of conversation? Yeah. And we were so happy when indeed you accepted, you know, to come in here to help us in dissecting this whole topic. I was trying to give you that kind of introduction that I know I have to give you, but I know it's not fulfilling.
That's all right.
So who really is Reverend Martin Osai?
Reverend Martin Osai, I am a servant leader at heart. I am an educator. Mm-hmm. I am a parent of 5 beautiful children, 3 boys and 2 girls. Mm-hmm. I work with the Dallas Independent School District in my full-time career as an educator. Over the last 15, 20 years, I've been heavily involved in science education, promoting, training, mentoring, and coaching science teachers, particularly. And also, whenever I have the opportunity to step in the classroom, really working with students to think differently outside the box about science and do a lot of hands-on explorations and things like that. So, and in the community, I'm very, very active in the area of really educating our community. Yes. On the side, I do financial literacy education, helping families with life insurance, investment, annuities, and things like that. So I wear many hats, but it's all about the passion to develop our community. Yes,
that's really exciting to know, and I'm pleased to know that you are a man of so many characters, you know, qualities and stuff. So it brings us to the point of having to delve into this topic. Makes me feel that, of course, our viewers are going to have a much deeper, you know, well thought through responses to some of these questions. Right. So the whole concept of Father's Day celebration, I know, and you and I know, that a lot of the time they compare Father's Day to Mother's Day. Yes. Right? They say, okay, why are Father's Day, you know, why are we not seeing so many hype about Father's Day celebration? Why are mothers giving so much attention and stuff like that? But for me, that is good. In as much as that is good, we need to understand why that rhetoric is the case. Right. Is having to have a child the only way to be called the father?
Well, we have to first understand the meaning of a father. Mm-hmm. The original word of father is Abba. Abba means a provider. Mm-hmm. Abba means life giver, somebody who protects, somebody who guides, somebody who gives life, gives instructions, and directs, you know, their children in terms of life, instructions of life, teaching them, you know, coaching them, guiding them through how they navigate through life themselves. Yes. Our greatest teacher is Jesus Christ. He said, you know, what I see my Father do, I do. You know, so a father must become that kind of example where your children can look up to you and learn from you. And that's not to say a father is only one who has birthed their own children, but we also have fathers in our community who have assumed or have assumed the title of a father, not so much because they have their own biological children, but they have taken on the father role in the lives of a young person. Okay. So yes, you may be a father who is defined biologically, but you may also be a father figure to young people.
Must there be a real difference in having to set the examples for that child, be it you being a biological father or, you know, a non-biological, like stepfather or something like that? Must there be a particular role that you need to play because of the difference in biological fatherliness
Right.
or otherwise? Or it's just a standard that you need to?
Well, in father is a function. When you think about a father, it's the function that they play as the provider for that child, as the one who guides and raises that child. So when you think of it in the area of the function of a father, any man who takes an interest genuinely in a child and brings up that child and provides for that child and cares for that child's upbringing and makes the necessary provision for that child to thrive, grow, and develop is playing the role of a father. Obviously, the most ideal is for fathers who have birthed children to be the ones raising, protecting, providing for their children. But there are men in our community who play that role. I call them the gatekeepers of our community. They are those men who may not have their own children, or they may even have their own children, but, adopt other children who they provide that father function into their life. I know my own father had, there were 10 of us growing up, but even that, he brought his nephews and other people to live with us who he sent to school and grew up to become great people because of him taking the role on as a father figure for these individuals.
Do you think there are challenges in the life of fathers in their own lives in having to do these or perform these responsibilities? Because, as you rightly said, you might want to do A, B, C, D in the life of a child to bring up the child. But again, you as a figure would have your own challenges that might not enable you to do that. Do you think these are the realities, or these are things that possibly could happen in the life of somebody wanting to father a child?
Well, I mean, every responsibility has its challenges.
Yes.
Being a father requires, being in the position to care for, to nurture, to provide for. So the challenge then becomes when a father finds himself in a place where he's not able to function effectively in those roles for whatever reason. Maybe he's lost his job. And unfortunately, in our society today, a lot of men are incarcerated, which is very sad. So there are a lot of young people growing up without that father figure. And these fathers, deep in their hearts, want to be there for their children. But for one thing or the other, and maybe some mistake and sometimes even over-exaggerated, puts them behind bars for unnecessary number of years, taking them away from the function of the father in the home. So we do have households today where we call it the absentee father situation, where children are growing up with mothers. It may also be one of the reasons why the point you raised earlier, we focus so much on Mother's Day and we don't focus as much on Father's Day. But the father is the foundation for the family and society.
Yes.
To tell you the truth, because we have a lot of absentee fathers, that is why we have a lot of social ills in our society. Because if the father is there to guide, to mentor, to train, to provide for their child, there will be no reason for that child to not have proper advice and to be on the streets and to get in trouble. I beg to differ that if we pay attention to fathers and rehabilitate the fathers who are having challenges and bring them to where they can be there for their children, we can minimize some of the crime and ills in society today.
Yeah, that brings me to your last point. Brings me to another concept that I was thinking about, ahead of this program. Will a man or a father, I don't want to say a man because obviously that's a different, will a father need help in making him a father in the life of a child?
Certainly, older men who have been great fathers must impart what they have learned to their sons. Fathers raise fathers. Fathers beget sons, but then they raise them to become fathers.
Yes.
So when you are a father, let's say a young person who is just starting off, maybe in their early 20s and gets married and become a father, if that father has a father, what he has learned from his father or what his father has imparted to him, that is what he's going to impart to his children, and that's how he's also going to function as a father. So then that begs the question, or places the responsibility on fathers, that how are we raising our boys? How are we raising our sons so they can be the fathers of their homes and become the husbands that would develop healthy families? So imparting to fathers is critical, and therefore as a society, we must have resources that helps young men to become fathers, coaching and training them on how to be the foundation for their home, how to be the priest of their home, let's put it that way, and the guardian for their home. They become, oftentimes people talk about the father is the head or the husband is the head. I want to say that he is more the foundation. He holds everything together. And when that foundation is strong, then the house is strong. And if every household is strong, society is strong as well.
If the foundation of fatherhood is strong, then the community is strong, and the household is strong as well. You are still watching HCN, where today's topic has been on Father's Day celebration, and we have here with us our special guest, Reverend Martin Osei from the Ghana Presbyterian Community Church. He's here helping us to understand a little bit about all the other rhetorics that we haven't really focused so much on. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Yes, we rent, deliver, and install. Bleeze Multimedia provides audio-visual equipment rentals, installation services for boardrooms, churches, conference rooms, training facilities, auditoriums, and virtually anywhere audio and video equipment is utilized. At Bleeze Multimedia, we also rent and install digital signage for shops, trade shows, sports centers, seminars, and any event, creating an opportunity to promote your product and services live from your comfort zone or location onto social media channels. Bleeze Multimedia, your smart and affordable choice. Call us today. We will come to you. Email us at info@bleezemultimedia.com.
First, have you ever tried finding a home address at night and getting lost, and time was of the essence? Do you recall the very unfortunate situation which occurred in Fort Worth, where police officers responded to a crisis situation but ended up in the wrong address? Destination Light has come forward with a very simple solution to this very complex problem. Worry no more. Get your product now. This will make it really easy for loved ones and your visitors to find you at nighttime, delivery services to get your product to you, an emergency response team to get to you on time. A few seconds can make a difference.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are still watching Heroes Cable Network, and here we focus on promoting education, culture, and educating our community. You are still watching me and my special guest, Reverend Martin Osei, as we dissect deeper into the perspective of who a father is and the roles and responsibilities of a father, trying to go a little bit away from the usual rhetoric. But before we went on the break, Reverend, you made mention of the fact that indeed fathers don't only or cannot only become a father on their own. They need some sort of counseling, some sort of motivation. It could be from anywhere. It could even be from the home, from their wives, or even from the children in order to become who they are. The key other aspect is, what else does it take a father to be a father? Apart from just the motivation and the support that they will need, what else does it take? Can it be something from innate? Is it really from within people?
Right.
Because some fathers might start being all that we've spoken about, but all of a sudden then, could that be an innate character of the person in question? Or is something else that might influence that?
I think fatherhood is responsibility. Mm-hmm. There are people who give birth to children and they are not there for the children. I don't call that a father. You're a man and you just procreated. But you are a father when you can raise your children. And that requires a certain responsibility for that child that you brought into the world. David said those things in Psalm 76, I believe it was Psalm 78. He said, those things which we have heard and our fathers have taught us, we will teach them to the generations to come. We will teach them to their children. So that transgenerational role of fatherhood is something that must be passed on. Young fathers must be coached by older fathers in the community. We you know, society has changed. We used to have a communal system where the older fathers talk to the younger fathers. But today we have in the society where younger fathers think they know it all and they will not take wisdom and advice from the older fathers. But as we begin to create opportunities for dialogue and opportunities to talk, men's fellowships in churches, men's retreats, you know, have seminars and conferences about what it means to be a father. You know, how do I get involved in my child's education, for example? What opportunities do I create to have conversation with my child, right? Do I have something of interest with that child? If my child is interested in baseball, am I there at his game so he knows I'm interested in what he's interested in? So going back to that responsibility of being a father, if you're a father, you have a keen interest in helping raise the child that you have birthed, the sons and the daughters. You must be there for them. I mean, our daughters even need us more than anything because we become the father, we become the role model for the husband they are going to be looking for. You know, the best compliment a father can get is for their daughter to look at them and say, Daddy, I want to marry somebody like you. You know, that almost will bring tears to any father's eyes because you want to be that example for your children. So much so that even your daughters want a man in their life that is like their father. You know, they should see you, how you treat their mother, how you care for them in the home. You know, how you are interested in making provision for them and interested in what they are interested in and guiding them through life. Not dictating to them, but guiding them. I'll give you an example. My son, you know, and this is a lot of African fathers do this. We have this tendency of we want our children to live the life we did not live. I wanted to be a medical doctor and I didn't get a chance to be a medical doctor. So my son has to go to medical school. You know, my oldest son, Emeka, wanted to go into acting. So I said, hey, if that's what you want to do, go for it. And I've given him all my support. And not only that, put him in the best school that I know he can get his training. In addition to that, I put him in summer programs where he's getting additional tutoring and coaching in modeling and acting, right? So that is what the child wants to do. As the father, I am there to support him, to encourage him, to look for opportunities for him. You know, my daughter wants to become an astronaut. So as a father, my responsibility is what opportunities or what things will I put in front of her that will encourage her. She was able to go to Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama last year, you know, to space camp. That is her interest. So I'm moving her and directing her into areas that recently I shared with her a website where she can actually dialogue and talk with astronauts. You know, so the responsibility of a father is not just, you know, making sure there is food on the table, but also ensuring that your children are progressing in a way that you can look back and know you've raised them well. You know, your children are not out on the streets because you have given them that counseling and guidance at home. And be genuinely interested in what they are interested in and give them the support.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you heard it for yourself. You're still watching HCN, and I'm Nana J. What I find very interesting here today is the fact that, in fact, all fathers will have to take keen interest in the development of their children. So if your child is interested in a particular area of discipline, you don't have to be a hindrance to that. You only have to help the child pave the way for the child to get to that standard where he or she wants to get to. You can still join the conversation of what we are discussing here today on our social media handles. Please subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels. You know, like the pages, share it, provide us with a comment. We can read it now for everybody else to know what it is that you're also thinking about and how you want to also contribute to this program. Now, Rev, I know that as Africans, we have our standards of bringing up our children. The way an African parent or an African American parent would bring up a child is totally going to be different from how a Westerner or another person of a different race would want to bring up their child. Now the question is, with you being a Ghanaian and then now an American, how do you combine or bring these two different characters or qualities of parenting into a modern day setting,
Right.
as in what we face here in America. This system and environment is totally different from what we are used to back at home.
Certainly.
What do you think is the way to go, you know, for so many other African Americans and Africans in this community? How do they approach, you know, bringing up their children in this system?
What is very important is to maintain a balance. I know that we were raised in, you know, very authoritarian, you know, system where, you know, the father is that authority figure. You know, you do something wrong, your mother tells you, wait till your father gets home.
Yes.
I mean, you dread when daddy gets home, you know you're going to get it.
Yes.
You know, spanking is good. We got it growing up. But we live in a culture now where that is just not the best way, you know. The Bible tells us, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. There has to be a balance. Yeah. You know, when my kids were growing up, at a certain age, you know, if they did something that requires some spanking, I had to do that. But you do it lovingly, not because, you know, you don't do it to inflict pain, you do it to correct. So it's more of correction, you know. But now that my children are older, you know, I learned to be able to talk with them without necessarily having to spank them because they did something wrong. Being able to just have that conversation and getting them to see what they've done wrong. Sometimes just taking some privileges away is more, it's punishment enough, you know. Okay, you know, like this has happened. Yes, you know, taking, you know, just what they love, what they, you know, take that privilege away for a period of time, you know, so that you get their attention. You know, but also don't become a father who your children will fear. Your children should be able to come to you and talk to you. Your children should be able to draw near to you as their father.
Wouldn't that spoil the kids? Because then they should be able to see, oh, daddy is coming. Then, you know, not to put any kind of, instill any kind of fear whatsoever, but again to make them feel that, hey, okay, so mommy was here, you did this, and you got away with it.
Right.
But when daddy comes, you cannot do the same thing.
Right.
That's not supposed to mean that daddy is too strict.
Right.
But daddy would not approve of that kind of behavior, of that kind of utterance, of that kind of action.
Yeah.
So you don't think it's sometimes good to let that happen?
Well, you do need to be a firm father and stand your ground in terms of what your expectations are. Make your expectations very clear. And when your children don't meet your expectations, they know already they have not. And draw their attention to that.
Yeah.
But then gently correct them. You know, don't correct them in a way. There is a way to correct a child that can shut the child off from you. You don't want them to shut down from you and not want to get nearer to you. You know, I know that African fathers, we are not all lovey-dovey, hugging and all that, but there are some ways that we show we love our children by being there for them, by advising, talking to them, by engaging with them in what interests them, creating recreational activities that you can do with your children, and them and respect for you, you know, so they know that, look, dad is not all just being hard on us, but he can also play with us.
Yes.
He can also take us on a trip. He can take us for ice cream. We can go and have fun. So maintain a good balance where if you are providing for your children, you are genuinely interested in them, you are spending quality time with them, not quantity, because we live in a very busy society. But for me, quality is what is important.
Yes.
When I am home, I am home. You know, oftentimes our Friday nights are movie nights. So the kids now come to look forward to it. So prior to Friday, they'll say, Daddy, what movie are we watching on Friday night?
Oh,
you know, so being able to relax with your children, play with your children, have fun with your children. You know, I love to cook. I get in the kitchen and we cook together. So much as you are the father figure that has to put your foot down when something is not going right, which is your responsibility. Don't overlook when things are not going right. But at the same token, be your child's friend. Let your child not be afraid to come to you. I know we grew up in cultures where if you needed something from your father, you had to go to your mother and let your mother go, like the mother becomes the lawyer, you know, and say, you know, Mama, talk to daddy for me. No, I want my children to be able to come to me when they need something. Even if the answer is no, I have a good reason to tell them why, you know. And to that point, My son is working and make some money, and he wants to go buy PlayStation, and I told him that is not a good investment.
Yeah.
You know, because he already has one in the house. He wants an advanced one, but he also has a smartphone, so he has a lot of games on it. So I told him, you know, you just made, you know, you got $300. Now you want to go buy something for $280? Think about how you're spending that money. What if you don't have that income tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, so those kinds of conversation begin to shape them to become responsible. You know, you made some income. Think about, you know, what are you giving back? Have you even thought about your offering or your tithes to church? Things like that.
Yeah.
You know, have you thought about doing something for somebody else? Don't always be inward looking. So those are all lessons you teach, but the only way your children can receive those lessons well is when you are not just so firm on them all the time, but you can also be relaxed with them and have conversations. Sometimes in those play moments and recreational times is when you can even get their attention more and they feel more comfortable to talk to you.
Okay, perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, you're still watching HCN. I'm Nana J, and the conversation just keeps getting exciting and exciting and exciting. I'm looking to read your comments. As I said, you can still follow us on all our social media handles. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, share our content, and then send us your comments. We'll be right back to delve into a next chapter of this conversation, which is even more better. Stay tuned.
Do you have an event coming up and you need audio-visual equipment? Yes, we rent, deliver, and install. Bleeze Multimedia provides audio-visual equipment rentals, installation services for boardrooms, churches, conference rooms, training facilities, auditoriums, and virtually anywhere audio and video equipment is utilized. At Bleeze Multimedia, we also rent and install digital signage for shops, trade shows, sports centers, seminars, and any event, creating an opportunity to promote your product and services live from your comfort zone or location onto social media channels. Bleeze Multimedia, your smart and affordable choice. Call us today. We will come to you. Email us at info@bleezemultimedia.com.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you're watching HCN, where we promote culture, tradition, and education of our community. Here today in the studios is Reverend Martin Osai from the Ghana Presbyterian Community Church, helping us understand a little bit of the difference in the rhetoric of Father's Day. And this program is a special dedication to all fathers in our community. So, Rev, before we left for the commercial break, you made a very insightful comment regarding how fathers ought to soften their stance when it comes to, you know, putting up their actions or putting together their fatherly roles. One other thing that also struck me very much is in softening your actions, there might be some underpinning qualities that makes the stance that you soften even better for the child to understand that, look, I understand my father is being like this because of this. Like in the case where you had to advise your child on having to save his money and, you know, you look at how best he can invest that money in something else that would bring him more benefit than just going to buy a PlayStation. Rings a lot of bells. And a lot of the discussion also has focused on two different things. I'm not too sure if we can call them difference, but I hope you can help us to establish that difference. Now, who is a physical father and who is a spiritual father? Is there any difference between a physical father and a spiritual father? And if there is, what are they?
That is a very, very good question. I would start off by saying that the two go hand in hand. If you are a father particularly a father of faith, you are a spiritual father. You are the priest of your home. When I say the priest of your home, you teach your children about faith and trust in God. I recall growing up, we didn't have very much, but my faith development started from my father. Because my dad would often say to us, God will provide. And there were times that, we didn't know what dinner was going to be. Dad would leave home in the morning to go work, and he would say to us, there were a lot of us boys, we had one sister, so usually he would say something like, boys, I'm going and God will provide. And then in the middle of the day, usually this is in the summer months when we're home and we see him come home in the middle of the day. And Dad will come home and say, boys, didn't I tell you God will provide? And my dad worked at a technical institute as the head of the auto mechanics department. So oftentimes expatriates and government officials will bring their cars to the technical school for it to be fixed by the students. And, they don't pay them, it's free because they are using the students as part of the learning. But oftentimes when they will bring these cars from the embassies or the expatriate office and the different departments, before they will leave, they will hand an envelope to Dad. Like a token of appreciation. So Dad will come home in the middle of the day and say, hey, boys, didn't I tell you God will provide? So Dad comes and say, Mom, go to the market. We're going to have a good meal today, right? Those early lessons taught me that if we put our trust in God, God will always provide. Fast forward 1995, when I came to go to college here, I arrived on my college campus with $200 in my pocket. I was de-enrolled. There was a church that was going to sponsor me. They failed to sponsor. So I had to figure out my way and navigate my way through life and go to college without knowing how I was going to pay for it. But that foundation of faith in me of God will provide came back to me on that college campus all by myself. And God did provided a job for me on the campus where I served as a student manager in the cafeteria and paid my way through college here in America and did not take one college loan. God provided. But where did that lesson come from? From growing up and from my father. So as a father, you teach spiritual lessons to your children. Praying with your children. Having a time where you pray about family needs. Let them see God answer prayer in your home. When there are needs in the house and you can say, let's believe God for this. And when God answers prayer, let them know, hey, kiddos, we prayed for God to do this for us. Look what God has done. You are building their faith. That is being a spiritual father. You are the oversight for your home. As I said earlier, you are the priest of your home. You pray covering your children. You also bless your children. In the Bible, there are many examples of fathers laying hands on their children to bless them. There is something about the father's blessing that sends you far. Paul told in Ephesians, he said, honor your father and your mother. And this is the only commandment that has a promise that you will live long. It makes you wonder why we have premature deaths when people are not honoring their fathers. So physically, you are there for your children. You play with them. You hang out with them. You may travel. And I love to travel. We go on trips, New York, Niagara Falls, wherever. You build memories for your children. So physically, you are doing those kinds of things where you are involved in their life. You're going to parent conference meetings. You are calling teachers, making sure their grades are right, checking their grades, not just leaving it to the mothers to do. The father has to be on top of things. Because some like to say we are the head of the home. Yes, the head means leadership. Be the leader of your home. So you are the spiritual leader. But when it comes to the physical things, lately I've been gardening, and the kids, are involved in that. They water the plants. They come alongside with me. We plant things in our garden, and we have conversations. They ask a lot of questions. Creating that environment for your children to ask you questions so you can pour into them the little and the wisdom. So spiritual fatherhood and physical go hand in hand. But you are a better physical father when you can be a spiritual father also. And sometimes, in the church, you may have an older person you look up to as a spiritual father. So when we talk about spiritual fathers, it can be somebody who mentors you and raises you up in the things of God. But every father should be, if you are going to be a good father and an effective father, you need help. And we can do nothing without the help of God. By our spiritual submission to God and Him pouring into us so we can be enabled to do for our children.
Wow, this is really, really, really a revelation. I'm still going to ponder on what you said. A better physical father is when you are a better spiritual father.
Yes.
We know this saying that too much of everything is bad.
Yeah.
Like the example that you cited. A physical father could be, let's say, a father who is an auto mechanic, like in the case of your father.
Yeah.
So he could bring all your brothers and your sister around and maybe show you a couple of, oh, this is how an engine works, this blah, blah, blah. It could be another person who's a salesperson, can give a little bit of sales, tuition or tutorials to it. That is still being physically there to help the kids, at least I don't know what you do and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, being a physical father, if you have too much role or if you focus too much on the spirituality of things when it comes to bringing up your kids, do you not think it might also make the children have a different dynamics in their way of living? Are they not always going to be thinking, okay, so Dad, I know my dad always says God will provide and blah blah blah, and not do the physical aspects that would have that provision to come into reality, and so think, okay, we'll give it to God. God will do this. God will do that, and still remain stagnant and not want to make a move.
Yeah.
How do fathers, in creating that real balance of physicality and spirituality, ensure that there was not so much overlap or so much reliance on one than the other?
That's a very, very good point you made. And it's very important that we always maintain that balance. Being spiritual doesn't mean everything becomes spiritual. Don't be so spiritually minded that you are of no earthly value. So if I have faith in God, that does not negate my responsibility. Every promise of God has a condition. You would always see that before any promise of God would have that condition that must be fulfilled in order for the promise. Give and it shall be given. Well, if I'm going to believe God to bless me and I am not willing to let go what is in my hand, right, then how am I going to receive? Lately, doing gardening has taught me a lot. I made a comment just this week that I planted, okra. I put okra seed in the ground and I harvested okra. I did not harvest oranges.
Yes.
What we sow, that we will reap. But in order for that okra to thrive, I have to pull weeds out of it. I have to fluff the soil every once in a while. I have to water it. And God sends the rain also, but God causes the production to come, but we must do our part. And we must teach our children to work. The first responsibility God gave us is to dress. He told Adam and Eve, dress the garden and keep it. That is work. Work was ordained by God. So we cannot be lazy and not work. If I want to go to the best college, I must put in the effort. And as a father, I must ensure that I'm training my children to put in their effort. Recently, my son took pre-calculus, and he was struggling with it, and he was kind of coaxing off in the class and was going to make a C. I said, no, we need to get on top of this. I had him sat by me on evenings and work on, so I told him, okay, where is the grade now? And as he kept working the activities, his grade kept going up. He was settled that it's too difficult. I said, no, you have to put in the effort. We have to teach our children the growth mindset. So maintaining that balance, yes, God will provide, but in my story, God provided through the job at the university cafeteria. And I worked 40 hours a week, sometimes more, to pay my way through college. When my friends were going to parties and going to have fun, I was studying because my hours were in work, and I would come back home and study till maybe 1, 2 in the morning and be in my 8:50 or 7:50 class in the morning. So when we believe God will provide, that does not rule out the fact that we must do the work.
Yes.
Because every promise of God requires a condition. Give and it shall be given. He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. I can choose to not open the door. But he said, if you open the door, I will what? Come in. When you look at every promise of God in Scripture, everyone has a promise and a condition. Many times we are quick to claim the commission. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He said I should, he will supply my needs according to his riches and glory. Well, what did he say you must do in order for him to supply your needs according to his riches and glory? So maintaining that balance and teaching our children and our young people that work is important, and when we do the work, then God blesses the works of our hands.
Perfect. When we do the work, God will bless the work of our hands. And I still want to reiterate this, and I quote you directly: a better physical father is indeed one who takes his spirituality also equally serious. Ladies and gentlemen, you're still welcome to push through your comment to us on our social media handles. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube. All we ask of you to do, simply go onto our page, subscribe to our channel, like our content, and share it amongst your colleagues. Let us see what you guys are also thinking back at home regarding all the statement that has been made here by Reverend Martin Osei. Keep watching HCN. We will be right back.
Yes, I think we should celebrate fathers just like we celebrate moms. We have Mother's Day. It's real big all over the world. There are a lot of fathers who are playing the role of mom and dad. Okay, they're playing both roles. Now you can't call them mom, so you know what I mean. You got to call them father or dad. So yes, fathers need to be celebrated. I would think it would be the proper thing to do, since we have big recognition for Mother's Day. Thank you.
I think in these days, these generations that we have, the father may be construed as somebody that actually is responsible, can pretty much take care of a child, and say nurture the child to become a responsible citizen in our society. A dad, I'm not sure, maybe it's another language or synonym for father. So that's what I would define.
So is it any male figure who can be a father?
Not really. I mean, I think there's a difference giving birth to a child, to a society, and taking care of the child. So when you take care of the child, it doesn't matter if you're not the biological father. You can still be a responsible father to the child. The child can call you a father, and you can definitely enjoy also the blessings of a father from the child.
To me, there are two different kinds of fathers. We have the biological father who gave birth to a child, and the other one is the adopted father, where it's not biological, but the person has adopted a son or a daughter, for that matter, to take care of and influence the person's life. So that's how I see it. So we basically have two types of fathers: the one who is the actual father, biological father, and the other one who has been adopted by the father.
So is it necessary to set aside a day to appreciate our fathers?
I think it's important to set a day aside, not only to celebrate, but to acknowledge God's mandate to fathers. Fathers have divine mandate to take care of their families. And so it's important that we celebrate, not only celebrate, but also acknowledge God's grace upon fathers.
Thank you so much, Pastor Frimpong. Who is a father?
I think a father is a male figure who is either biologically have kids, or looks after kids, raises kids, and is responsible, and is a role model and a mentor for kids. treats his family well, his wife and children, takes care of the family. There are several roles that a father fits, and it's hard to enumerate all of them, but those are the ones I can think of right now, you know.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. If you just joined us, you're watching HCN and our special dedication program to all fathers in our community. And we have, presence in the studio, Reverend Martin Osei from the Ghanaian Presbyterian Community Church there in Irvine here discussing with us, all those other stuff that you have never really paid attention to when it comes to Father's Day. Before we move on to the conversation, which is going to be the very last session of this talk, would be a special dedication that we have to all, distinguished fathers in our community. We do have our very own producer and director of the Heroes Cable Network, Mr. Patrick Tamaklo. We say a very happy Father's Day to you. Mr. Daniel Adobo of Middleton, Mr. Harry Adobo in Ghana, Mr. Mike Amwa there in North Carolina, Mr. Prince Ajay also in North Carolina, and our very own Mr. Julius Koto, the president of the Area Association here in Dallas, and all men in the association as well. And our very own Reverend Martin Osei, we say a very big Father's Day celebration to you. We are very proud of you for everything that you are doing for the community and for your children as well. We do have Pastor Joshua Asiedu, who is the lifeguard assembly, who's at the Lifeguard Assemblies of God Church in Arlington here in Texas. We do have Mr. Brown in Sigakope, and this is a special happy Father's Day celebration coming to you from Mr. Tamaklo here at HCN. Professor James Flolu there in Accra. This is a special happy Father's Day celebration coming to you from Terence Flolu, James Flolu, myself, Nana J, Pearl, Pamela, and Kodigi. This is a special Father's Day celebration coming to you. We do have also Dr. Alexander Hoodbrook, and it's coming from AFE here in Texas, here in Dallas in Texas. And then also a very special Father's Day celebration to Mr. Azu of the Ghanaian Presbyterian Community Church. And lastly, to Dr. Ajay of Alcorn State University in Mississippi. So, Rev.
Yes.
Back to our conversation. And probably the very last question that I want to put to you before we leave. What are the do's and don'ts of a spiritual father and a physical father? Just briefly.
I'm glad you asked that question. When it comes to spiritual fathers, sometimes we overemphasize the dependence on the spiritual father and forget that we must develop our own spirituality too.
As fathers?
As fathers. So if, let's say, I look up to somebody as a spiritual father, and I'm talking more in the church setting now, sometimes we look up to this pastor as our father.
Yes.
And therefore, we look up to the pastor for everything of spiritual matters and forget that the Bible is there for us to study also ourselves. Because of that, a lot of people have been deceived. These days, there are a lot of false prophets. And people are listening to false prophets and listening to so-called prophecies that may not be of God, unfortunately, and some have been deceived. The only way to avoid that is to make sure that you are developing yourself spiritually also, so that if some prophet comes to say something to you, it should be a confirmation of what you already know or has been impressed on your heart by God. So I caution over dependence on spiritual fathers, so to speak, in the church setting. However, there are great spiritual fathers in the church and in the community who will guide you and lead you and help you grapple through spiritual matters. So we should not neglect that, but don't over-depend on it to where you fail to develop your own understanding of the things of God. Having said that, it is important that as a father who has oversight for your household, that you are fulfilling your spiritual responsibilities, such as praying for your children, blessing them, praying God's protection over them, being the spiritual guardian in your home, in addition to the physical things you do as a father. So being a spiritual father in your home is over your children and over your family, your wife and your household. In the church setting, other people who look up to you, don't take advantage of them, because some have done that, and that is unfortunate. And you, the person who looks up to a spiritual figure, be sure that you are learning the word for yourself, so that when they even tell you something, you can go back and check it. It was said of the Berean Christians that they went back and searched the scriptures for themselves of everything that Paul taught them, right? So we have to do our own self-due diligence to know the word of God, which help us develop our spirituality.
Okay, good. How about the physical aspect? What must be the do's and the don'ts?
Definitely balance is key. Do things with your children that builds memories. I know that it is not the quality of time you spend. I mean, it's not the quantity of time, but the quality of time. Whenever I have the opportunity to travel with my children, those have been some of the most learning times or learning opportunities for my children and I. When we travel, when we go out of state, our goal is to visit all 50 states. You've done about 27 already. And so we've done a lot of travel. And oftentimes kids will come to me and say, Dad, do you remember when we went to, and do you remember when we went to the Grand Canyon? Do you remember when, they still have that memory. Build those physical memories with your children. Spending time with them. Finding a hobby that you cannot do. Playing games together. Recently, Aram was telling me, Daddy, we need some board games. So the last time I was in the store, I was looking for what board game would be good for us to play together as a family. Do those kinds of things together, because in those atmospheres, your children feel more comfortable to open their hearts and to talk and to ask you questions. Then you will be able to make deposits into their lives.
Whoa, this has been very, very, very educative. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen this whole conversation right from the beginning to now, I bet you have taken your notes, you have made all the necessary comments that you have to make for yourself, you have written down all the techniques and all the things that you need to become. If you are a father and you are watching, I think you've already done this homework. I would like to say a very big thank you to you, Reverend Martin Osei, for honoring our invitation and for coming to share this depth of knowledge with us and our community at large. We are very pleased to you also for spending your time to watch us and to present us with your comment, and to also, as I said, follow us on our social media handles. Don't forget, before we end this session, what you have to do, just go on there, subscribe to our social media handles on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Just share the page and then provide us with a comment of what you have seen today and any other comment that we air also on here. My name has been Nana J, and you have been watching HCN Heroes Cable Network. Thank you, and join us next time for a wonderful show.
Do you have an event coming up and you need audio-visual equipment? Yes, we rent, deliver, and install. Blees Multimedia provides audio-visual equipment rentals, installation services for boardrooms, churches, conference rooms, training facilities, auditoriums, and virtually anywhere audio and video equipment is utilized. At Blees Multimedia, we also rent and install digital signage for shops, trade shows, sports centers, seminars, and any event, creating an opportunity to promote your product and services live from your comfort zone or location onto social media channels. Blees Multimedia, your smart and affordable choice. Call us today. We will come to you. Email us at info@bleesmultimedia.com.
HCN.